July 8th, 2014. A young man is seen entering Varna Airport in Bulgaria, and some minutes later, he is quickly fleeing. Where is he going? Or what is he running from? This is the last known sighting of Lars Mittank. He ran into this field, and he has not been seen since. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Alice, and this is English with Alice B, where you can come to learn English in a clear and simple way without the stress. Today I'm back with another episode of True Crime in Slow English. For those of you who don't know, this is the playlist where I tell true crime stories in slow and clear English so that you as the listener can practice your listening skills and expand your vocabulary at the same time as enjoying the process. Today we are going to be looking at the mysterious disappearance of Lars Mittank, and we are going to tell this story using the conditionals. The first, second, third, and mixed conditionals in English are considered to be one of the most difficult things to learn. This is where we talk about the world of imagination, the world of possibilities. We want to rewrite the past, and we want to imagine what could have happened, what might have happened, or what would happen. If you need a quick revision of these topics, please check my description. You will find the links for all 4 videos below. Today's true crime story will use the conditionals in a natural way so that you can see how to form it, how to use it, and how to practice it. And here is today's vocabulary bank. This is a list of the words and phrases that I've highlighted throughout this video that I think are important to understand in order to follow the story. Feel free to pause the video at this point, take notes or take screenshots, or to return to this page at the end of the video. So let's look at today's case and let's talk English. So, before we talk about what happened on July 8th and the events that led up to it, it'd be useful to understand exactly who was Lars Mittank. Lars was born on February 9th, 1986 in Berlin in Germany, but he didn't grow up in Berlin. He grew up in a town a little bit further away, still in Germany, called Itzehoe. Before his story became one of the most famous cases on the internet, Lars actually lived a very quiet, very normal life. At the time of his disappearance, Lars was 28 years old and he was working in a power plant in Germany. From all accounts, there was nothing abnormal, strange, dangerous, even too adventurous about Lars. And in fact, his job helped support this idea. In Germany, to get a position in a power plant is quite a regulated thing. He would have to be reliable, predictable, on time. He wasn't the kind of person who would just disappear. He wasn't the kind of person who would just go on vacation or go away on weekends and not come back or come back late or disheveled. He was quite a predictable, normal person. People who knew Lars described him as a good friend and generally an easygoing person, and above all, an incredibly devoted son. He had a very close relationship with his parents, and in fact, right before he went to Bulgaria, his father had suffered a stroke. So when Lars would finish work, he would go back to his parents' home in order to help taking care of his father. Lars was the kind of person who, if you were having a bad day or if you were feeling down, he would do what he could to help cheer you up. That was the character of Lars. He just wanted to be a bright energy in people's lives. Like many young men in Germany and to be honest, in the world, Lars was a huge fan of football. He wasn't just a casual viewer, he was passionate and he was extremely devoted to his favorite football team, SV Werder Bremen. He rarely missed a match, and his love for the sport was also a huge part of his social life. Lars was also athletic as well. He enjoyed doing sports and practicing sports a lot, not just watching. And of course, he was a huge fan of playing football. His love for his football team is something important to note. It's going to come up later in the story. So it's the summer of 2014, and of course, at this time, we had the FIFA World Cup. A very exciting time for everyone, but especially your die-hard football fans. Lars had a very close, tight knit group of friends who were talking about going to Varna in Bulgaria. Varna is a little bit like Ibiza for a holiday in that it's famous for its party life, beautiful beaches, alcohol, and that general culture of lads' holiday. So, where groups of young men go together to enjoy exactly that: the nightlife, the pubs, the bars, drinking alcohol, the beautiful beaches, that kind of thing. So they booked a trip to Golden Sands. They went to a four-star hotel. It's a very beautiful looking hotel, right close to the beach, and they left on June 30th. They all went together, so it was Lars and four of his friends. This wasn't the type of holiday that Lars usually liked to go on. He was definitely more of a tranquil, chill guy who maybe preferred going somewhere where he could explore nature and kind of have that kind of relaxing holiday. But his friends had said that they were planning to go here. And Lars felt, okay, I'll join on this trip. He was a little bit stressed at work and having to go back and forth to take care of his father. It had been said that he was kind of holding on to a lot of stress, holding on to some anxiety, and that this holiday was the perfect break, the perfect opportunity for him to kind of blow off some steam. So they left for Bulgaria on June the 30th, and the first few days of their holiday were perfectly normal. They did exactly as they had planned to do: beach, beers, football, relaxing, staying by the pool. You understand. And according to Lars's friends, there was nothing weird or abnormal about the holiday or about Lars's behavior initially. So we passed a few days and we arrived to July the 6th. The holiday is close to its end, and it's another night for Lars and his friends to go and find a bar to watch the football in. On this particular evening, Lars was, again, not acting strangely, completely normal. He was excited about the football. And in this particular bar, they had lots of flags. Of course, it's the World Cup, and it's very typical for pubs and bars to have flags of the world all around. Lars was playing some kind of a game. He would take the flag from one table and put it on another, and he was mixing up the flags and just kind of this young man behavior. Had a few beers. He's excited about the football. Nothing harmful, just being a bit silly. That's all. So the bar is absolutely packed. This is typical during the World Cup. Every pub or bar that you go into to watch the football is absolutely full. You've got no chance of sitting down. Usually you have to stand in a corner like this. Remember, Lars is a huge supporter of his football team, SV Werder Bremen. So on this particular night, there is another group of German tourists in the pub, and they are football fans as well. The problem is they are fans of Bayern Munich. This is a rival club. So, what perhaps starts off as kind of two groups of friends having jokes with each other about the football, a bit of banter, turns into a heated argument. I think it's fair to say, and I think we all know, football can be a very delicate topic, especially during the World Cup, especially during this big competition, and especially when you've had a few beers. If you provoke a passionate football fan in a bar, a simple argument will often turn into a fight. So, unfortunately, it seems that that's what happened. The argument escalated, it became heated, but fortunately, the men were able to kind of calm down and separate themselves before it turned into anything physical. There was no physical fight at this point. So later that night, Lars and his friends continued. They stayed in the same bar, and in fact, they were reportedly the last people to leave that bar at about 4 o'clock in the morning. Lars's friends wanted to go to McDonald's on their way home, but Lars didn't really want to eat at McDonald's. Remember, he was very much into his sports. McDonald's was not his kind of thing. So Lars decided to go back to the hotel by himself, and he would be joined by his friends later. On his way back to the hotel, Lars is confronted by a group of men. It's not the same group of men from the bar, but it's still a group of strangers, a group of men who he doesn't know. And they ended up getting to a fight, and this time it became physical. Lars was attacked and he was punched in the side of the head. Now, luckily, Lars was able to escape the situation and get back to the hotel relatively safely. He was suffering from a headache, but he described his injuries as superficial and that he wasn't so worried about it. This is really where the story starts to turn. And I can't stress enough the importance of staying with your friends. One, when you are on holiday. Two, when you've had a drink or when you're in a bar or something. And three, the combination of these things. It's always risky leaving a friend behind, or one of your friends going off on their own, even if it's by their own choice, even if they've said, I want to go, I'm ready to go. Um, you shouldn't ever leave a friend, even if, it's nearly a 30-year-old man. I don't personally feel good about that. I wouldn't do it myself. And I don't think that they should have done it either. If Lars had not gone back to the hotel by himself, these men may not have attacked him. When you're with someone, you just have that added security. So Lars, obviously, he was back at the hotel, and the following morning, he told his friends what had happened, his encounter with the men on his way home, but that he was okay. But later in the day, Lars started to notice an intense throbbing pain in his ear. And as they were flying back the next day, he decided to go to a local doctor to see if there was anything he could take for the journey. Remember, of course, if you have an ear injury, going on a plane and flying at high altitude is not really a good idea. So he wants the confirmation from a doctor that he's okay and that he can take any medicine if necessary. So he goes to the doctor, and the diagnosis is much worse than he thought. Lars was suffering from a ruptured eardrum. The doctor looked at Lars and gave him a very firm and clear warning. If you go on that plane tomorrow with this injury, the cabin pressure will burst your eardrum. Lars was advised to take a prescription medicine and to wait 1 or 2 days before flying home. Seeing that Lars was going to be left on his own, his friends did offer to stay with him. They offered to book a hotel somewhere, the same group of them, and just stay there for a few days and fly back when Lars was ready. But Lars completely refused. He didn't think it was necessary for all of them to have to stay, to pay all that money on another hotel at the last minute as well, and for all of them to have to buy tickets again back home. He said that he would be fine by himself. It would be 1 or 2 days, and that he would see them again once he got back home. He didn't want to ruin their time or their vacation by making them spend more money. He insisted he would be fine alone. He would find a cheap hotel, he would wait 1 or 2 days, and he would fly back to Germany by himself. So his friends, although they were worried, they accepted this. They all flew back home on the original booking, and Lars was left there alone, as he had requested. But now Lars was completely alone in a foreign country, unable to fly, injured, and he needed to find a cheap place to stay for the night before flying back when he could. He found a local taxi driver and asked him to take him to a cheap hotel, a hotel that he knew of that wouldn't be too expensive. The problem was, we're in July, we're in the middle of the summer, it was high season, it was peak season. All the hotels were booked up. To find an available and a cheap hotel, Lars had to go to a dodgy area, somewhere a little bit outside of the main city where kind of all the parties were happening and where all the people were. He was taken to a place called Hotel Color. As the night progressed, so we're on July 7th now, as the night progressed, Lars became more and more paranoid about what was happening around him. First of all, he had noticed the area that he was in. It wasn't a good area, let's say. It was a cheap hotel in an area that was a bit questionable. He had checked in, he'd given his credit card information at the front, and then he had gone to his room. But he did not sleep very well that night. During that night, Lars made several phone calls to his mother, becoming progressively paranoid in each call. His mother has reported that he was paranoid that somebody was following him. He thought a group of men were following him. He suspected that it was either the same men from the night that he had been attacked, and that the football fans, the Bayern Munich football fans, had arranged this in some way, and that all these groups of men were following him and were trying to get him. His mother reported that Lars wasn't speaking properly. He was whispering, so he was speaking like this. He thought people were listening to his conversations. And he said repeatedly to his mom, "There's something strange about this hotel. There's something strange happening in this hotel." Later on that night as well, he called his mom another time asking if she could cancel his credit cards. So when he checked in at the hotel, obviously he gave his credit card information and he saw that the receptionist had copied it somewhere. And he was paranoid now that they were going to, I don't know, do something with his credit card information, steal his money, use it. Again, he wasn't really clear what he thought was going to happen, but he pleaded with his mom, asking her to cancel his credit card so that nothing could happen while he was staying there. So clearly, we can see Lars's mental health and his thinking and his rationale is not there. Something is happening. Lars is clearly having some kind of an episode, and now that he's on his own without his friends to ground him, to help him calm down, to help him stay on earth, his paranoia and his thoughts are quickly spiraling out of control. Finally, the sun came up on July 8th, and during the discussions that Lars had had with his mother during the night, she had booked a flight for him that day at about 4 p.m. Lars, still feeling paranoid and still feeling unsafe in the hotel, didn't want to wait until the afternoon. And in fact, he booked a taxi early that morning and went to Varna Airport. And this is where we see that first footage of Lars. He enters the airport, very normal looking. He looks like a very regular traveler. He has his bag. He's walking calmly. He enters the airport and he went straight to the doctor's office. He wanted the confirmation that he was well enough to fly. He was so incredibly close to safety. The journey was almost over. He was in the airport. He just needed confirmation from the doctor. He needed to wait for his flight, and then he would have been home safe. But inside the doctor's office, something happened, and we don't know what. There is no CCTV footage for what happened once he was inside the doctor's office. The next thing that we see is that he's running for the exit without his bag, without his passport, without his phone. So, what happened inside the doctor's office? Well, the doctor on duty, Dr. Kostov, was reviewing Lars's case, and he was able to fly home. He was preparing the documents to say that Lars was allowed to fly home. While Lars was sat waiting for the documents that he needed, another man entered the office. Now, this man was dressed as a construction worker. Inside one of the terminals of Varna Airport, there was some very basic construction work happening. So the man enters the doctor's office, and this seems to be hugely triggering for Lars. At this point, Lars was visibly shaking and began moving in a way that, he looked paranoid. He looked very, very scared. It's as if Lars believed that this was the, final boss. This was the man that had been coming to get him all along. And he was right about his paranoia in the hotel. He was right thinking that these men were coming to get him. And now here he is. Just as you're about to leave the country, here's the guy that's coming to take you or to kill you, or whatever Lars was thinking. Suddenly, Lars stood up and he shouted, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." Dr. Kostov was confused, completely stunned, tried to calm him down, but to no avail. It did not work. This action, this moment, this man walking into the office really triggered something in Lars, and now he was in fight or flight mode. And he fled. He left behind his bag, his passport, his wallet, his phone, everything. He didn't even pick up a single thing. He was so scared that he just left without even thinking about any of his documents, anything that he needed, any money, any identification, anything to help him contact his mother or somebody else. He just left. And this is when we see that chilling footage of him running through the terminal, leaving the airport, climbing up and jumping over the fence, running into the sunflower field, and then we never see him again. So there are so many questions about what really happened in that doctor's office. If there's more to the story than what Dr. Kostov said, if something had been said to Lars, or if he was told he couldn't fly and he just panicked and had this reaction, we don't know what was said. But it doesn't really matter, because nothing that could have happened inside the doctor's office then explains why Lars was never ever seen again. If something had happened to him in that sunflower field or after he had left the airport, if something had happened to him, why was he never found again? Even a body, why was no body ever found again? How did nobody see anything? And that's it. That's the only thing we know for sure that happened to Lars Mittank. This brings us to one of the biggest debates in the true crime community. What actually happened to Lars Mittank? There are two main theories about what happened. The first theory is that Lars got into some trouble with some local drug dealers and gangs. So let's go back to the evening of July the 6th, where he had an argument with the Bayern Munich fans in the bar. After this heated argument, obviously, this is the same night that Lars ended up being attacked. Lars, according to his friends and according to his mother, Lars believed that the Bayern Munich fans with whom he had had an argument had paid this gang, who were believed to be locals, who were believed to be Bulgarians. They had been paid to attack Lars, to intimidate him, to attack him following this football fight, and that this gang, obviously they attacked Lars, they beat him up, but they also wanted to hire him to keep him as some kind of drug mule. There is this theory that they saw Lars's vulnerability. He was a traveler, he was in a foreign country, and he'd been beaten up by this group of guys, and that he had been forced to then do some drug jobs for him. This, according to the theory, would explain why Lars was feeling very paranoid in the hotel. He was supposed to be doing a job that he wasn't doing. He was supposed to be fulfilling drug orders that he wasn't doing. And this is why he was fearful that this gang were going to come and find him. I personally do not believe this to be true. If somebody was following him, or if a gang had been following him, we would have seen them on CCTV footage. He would have been seen being followed. The hotel that he went to the airport, there was no evidence that anybody was trying to follow him or to track him down. Also, what sense would it make for a local gang to hire someone who is a foreigner, who doesn't know the area, to do drug runs for them? It doesn't make sense to me that this is what had happened. The second theory is the theory that I believe to be true. So let's go back again to the morning after Lars had been attacked, when he decided to go to a local doctor. The local doctor had prescribed Lars a powerful antibiotic called cefuroxime. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for his ear. Now, in incredibly rare cases, this antibiotic is known to cause hallucinations, paranoia, and acute psychosis. Though I have to reiterate, it is very rare for this to happen. But Lars had been on holiday. He'd been drinking a lot every day. He'd been sitting in the sun. Perhaps he had even been taking recreational drugs. This, combined with the antibiotics that he had been prescribed, may have contributed to some kind of acute psychosis or some kind of hallucinations. I believe this to be more true. There is no evidence that a gang was following him. There is evidence that Lars was prescribed antibiotics and had been drinking. Lars was also hit in the head, hard enough to rupture an eardrum. It is incredibly likely that he was suffering from some kind of concussion. And I think this, combined with the antibiotics, with the sun, with the alcohol, I think it was a terrible and badly timed combination of things that led him to have this attack of paranoia that led him to leave the airport like that. But neither of these theories answer why did we never find a body? Even if he had been followed by a gang, or if he was having a psychotic episode and he left, that still doesn't explain why we have not found a body as of today. There are so many questions to this, and it's so unsettling, but a few thoughts come to my mind. And that is, If a dangerous gang had been following him, they would have been seen on CCTV. There is no evidence of anyone actually following him. Lars was clearly having some kind of breakdown, some kind of mental health crisis. If he had been in a healthy state of mind, he wouldn't have called his mom scared, paranoid as many times as he did. And this really shows the importance of those really small, seemingly insignificant stories. The little stupid bar fight that he had. If he had not gotten into a bar fight, he may not have been so paranoid about all the events that happened afterwards. If he had stayed at McDonald's with his friends, he would not have been attacked. And if he had not been attacked, he wouldn't have ruptured his eardrum. If he had not ruptured his eardrum, he would have been able to fly home. If Lars had not gotten into that bar fight, he may still be with us today. All of this for me just strengthens the idea even more so that you should not just walk off home alone for any reason. Do not walk off away from your friends. Do not let your friend walk off alone. I am not blaming Lars's friends for what happened. It is definitely not their fault that he was attacked. It is not their fault that he had these episodes and ultimately that he went missing. And they are probably suffering at the loss of their friend. But if you go away with someone, especially if you go to a foreign country, do not leave your friend alone. I feel like that should just be a universal rule. This case is truly heartbreaking, especially because, the last footage that we see of Lars is that he's clearly in this panic state. I can't imagine, what it must be like for his parents to see that footage, that chilling footage of him running out of the airport. His mother, of course, was devastated. She flew to Bulgaria, I think within the next couple of days to speak with the airport, to speak with the doctors, to see if anybody had any more information. And she's still looking for her son. She's still looking for Lars. His family may never know what happened to him. And I think that's terrible. Of course, with a case this famous, there have been many reported sightings of Lars, but none of which have been confirmed to be him. As of today, this case still remains a mystery. So that's all the information that I have on this case. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think happened? Was he being followed by someone, or was he having hallucinations as a result of the medicine that he was taking and the blow that he had taken to his head? Are there any other theories that I've missed out, or do you have any new theories of your own? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be really interested to see what you guys think. Thanks for spending your time with me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.